In April 1999, Hong Kong was shaken by a gruesome discovery in a Tsim Sha Tsui apartment. The decapitated head of 23-year-old Fan Man Yi, grotesquely stuffed inside a Hello Kitty doll. This marked the beginning of the Hello Kitty murder case, one of the most disturbing crimes in modern history. The discovery was prompted by a 14-year-old girl, Ah Fong, whose shocking confession unraveled the dark tale of Fan Man Yi's abduction, torture, and death. Ah Fong spoke of relentless torture inflicted upon Fan by members of a Hong Kong triad led by Chan Man Lok. The case highlighted the brutality of her captors and the twisted nature of the crime. The apartment revealed more chilling evidence, with Hello Kitty memorabilia juxtaposed against the horrors within those walls. The case became a grim symbol of human cruelty, leaving an indelible mark on Hong Kong's history. The sinister events began with a visit to the police by 14-year-old Ah Fong, who would become key to unraveling the mystery. In May 1999, Ah Fong, visibly distressed, approached the police with a shocking confession. She claimed to be tormented by the ghost of a woman bound and tortured, seeking justice. Initially dismissed as a troubled teenager, Ah Fong's account took a darker turn when she revealed her complicity in the murder. She guided the police to a flat in Kowloon, where they found Fan Man Yi's skull inside a Hello Kitty doll. The young girl's confession and the discovery forced the police to confront a monstrous reality. The case exposed the darkest aspects of human nature and became a focal point for discussions about crime and punishment. The chilling details of the case left an indelible mark on the community, highlighting the need for vigilance and justice. When Ah Fong first approached the police, their initial reaction was skepticism. However, her detailed account began to erode their doubts. Intrigued and disturbed, the officers decided to follow her to the flat in Kowloon. The flat was a scene from a nightmare, filled with Hello Kitty-themed items and evidence of brutal violence. The police pieced together the evidence, revealing the full extent of Fan Man Yi's ordeal. The initial reactions of the police mirrored the public's response as news of the case spread. The Hello Kitty murder case highlighted the dark underbelly of Hong Kong's criminal underworld and sparked a widespread outcry for justice. Fan Man Yi's life was marked by hardship and abandonment from a young age. Born in 1976, she faced the harsh reality of being unwanted by her family and was placed in a girls' home. The orphanage provided basic necessities but lacked emotional support, leaving deep psychological scars. The environment was far from nurturing, with limited resources and overworked staff. Fan Man Yi learned to navigate a world of neglect and minimal affection. These formative years set the stage for a life filled with struggle and vulnerability. Her childhood, marred by abandonment and institutional living, was a prelude to the struggles she would face as an adult. As Fan Man Yi transitioned into her teenage years, the absence of a supportive family took its toll. She found herself drawn into the world of drugs, with addiction serving as a temporary escape from her painful reality. Her addiction quickly spiraled, leading her to prostitution to sustain it. This new life brought dangers and degradations, exposing her to violent clients and further exploitation. The cycle of addiction and prostitution was vicious, eroding her sense of self-worth. Her life became a series of highs and lows, with the fleeting relief of drugs overshadowed by harsh realities. This descent into addiction marked a tragic turning point, isolating her from any chance of recovery. By 23, Fan Man Yi found stability as a nightclub hostess. Nightclubs in Hong Kong were glamorous, yet seedy, with hostesses entertaining clients for tips and a steady paycheck. This job was a step up from street prostitution, offering better security and income. However, the nightclub environment was far from safe, with illegal activities thriving. It was here she met Chan Man Lok, a triad member who exploited her vulnerability and addiction. Initially transactional, their relationship soon entangled her in his criminal operations. Her job as a hostess, while providing stability, ultimately led her deeper into the underworld. Fan Man Yi's decision to steal from Chan Man Lok was a desperate gamble with dire consequences. Struggling with addiction, she saw Chan's wallet as a quick solution to her problems. The theft set off a chain of events that sealed her fate. Chan Man-lok, a prominent triad member, reacted swiftly and ruthlessly. Determined to make an example of her, he gathered his henchmen to devise a plan. Fan's theft was an act of desperation and defiance, challenging Chan's authority. The theft marked the beginning of her tragic and horrific end. With the decision to kidnap Fan Man-yi, Chan Man-lok and his henchmen set their plan into motion. They knew her routine, making her an easy target. The plan was simple yet brutal: wait for her outside the nightclub. One evening, as Fan left the club, she was cornered and subdued by Chan and his men. The abduction was swift, a testament to their cold efficiency. The ride to the apartment was filled with dread, with Fan bound and terrified. She was taken to a place where the normal rules of society did not apply. The abduction marked the beginning of her torturous ordeal. Upon arriving at the apartment in Sim Sha Tsui, the true horror of Fan Man-yi's situation began to unfold. The apartment, filled with Hello Kitty memorabilia, was a stark contrast to the brutal reality she was about to face. Fan was immediately restrained, bound with electrical wire to ensure she could not escape. Her captors took pleasure in her fear, taunting her with what was to come. Chan Man-lok and his henchmen took turns inflicting pain, starting with beatings and escalating to more sadistic acts. The initial captivity was only the beginning of a month-long ordeal that would push Fan to the limits of human endurance and beyond. A month of suffering. The torture that Fan Man-yi endured during her month-long captivity was beyond comprehension. Every day her captors found new ways to inflict pain, pushing the boundaries of cruelty. Bound by electrical wires, her flesh raw and torn from constant friction, Chan Man-lok and his henchmen took turns to beat her savagely. Fan was subjected to burning, leaving her body covered in severe burns. Using cigarettes, heated metal objects, and boiling water, her captors inflicted excruciating pain. Each burn was a deliberate act of brutalization. The injuries penetrated her very soul, leaving her in constant torment. Fan was repeatedly raped, compounding her physical pain with profound psychological trauma. The sexual assaults were frequent and brutal. Her dignity was stripped away, her body reduced to a mere object. Each act of rape was another layer of degradation. The most dehumanizing aspect was being forced to eat human feces. This act of utter humiliation stripped her of any remaining dignity. It was a testament to the boundless cruelty of her captors. The month of suffering Fan Man-yi endured was a harrowing testament to human depravity. One of the most disturbing elements of Fan Man-yi's torture was the involvement of Ah Fong, the 14-year-old girl who would later go to the police. Ah Fong was not merely a witness, she actively participated in the horrors inflicted upon Fan. As Chan Man-lok's girlfriend, Ah Fong became entangled in the sadistic rituals. Her involvement added a layer of complexity and horror to the case. Undoubtedly, under Chan's influence, she was coerced into acts she might not have fully comprehended. However, her involvement was undeniable and chilling. The exact extent of Ah Fong's participation remains unclear, protected by her plea deal. Her own words during the trial were hauntingly revealing. When asked about her role, Ah Fong responded, "I had a feeling it was for fun." This statement highlighted the profound psychological manipulation she had undergone. The physical torture inflicted on Fan Man-yi was horrifying, but the psychological torment she endured was equally devastating. Chan Man-lok and his accomplices sought to break her spirit, to crush any remaining vestige of hope or resistance. This psychological warfare was designed to render Fan completely helpless and subservient. One of the most insidious methods was the constant verbal abuse. Fan was subjected to relentless taunting and threats. They mocked her suffering, belittled her cries for mercy. This verbal assault reinforced her powerless state. The psychological torture extended to deprivation and manipulation. Fan was often denied basic necessities, exacerbating her physical suffering. This deprivation was coupled with moments of false hope. This cruel manipulation played with her emotions, creating a roller coaster of hope and hopelessness. Adding to the psychological torment was the grotesque environment in which she was held. The Hello Kitty memorabilia created a surreal and horrific contrast to the brutality she endured. These innocent symbols were perverted into a macabre backdrop for torture. The juxtaposition of these cheerful images with her suffering amplified her sense of isolation and despair. The psychological torment was a calculated part of her captor's sadistic regimen. It ensured that even as her body weakened, her mind was also broken. This dual assault on her psyche and body was designed to strip away her humanity. The final moments of Phan Man Yi's life were as harrowing as the month of torture that preceded them. Her body, already ravaged by relentless abuse, was nearing its limit. On April 14, 1999, Ah Phong discovered that Phan had died overnight. The exact cause of her death remains uncertain, with her captors claiming it was an overdose. However, the extent of her injuries suggests the cumulative effects of torture. Chan Man Lok and his henchmen faced the grim task of disposing of her body. Their solution was as grotesque as their previous actions. They moved her body to the bathtub and began dismemberment. Using a saw, they cut her body into pieces. The remains were then cooked in boiling water. This macabre process took place on the same stove where they prepared their meals. The boiling served a practical purpose but added a further layer of horror. Most of Phan's remains were disposed of with household garbage. Her skull was sewn into an oversized Hello Kitty mermaid doll. This act was a final, twisted statement of their power and cruelty. They kept some of her teeth and internal organs as macabre trophies. The final moments of Phan Man Yi's life encapsulated the extreme brutality of her captors. Her death was marked by unimaginable suffering and degradation. The Hello Kitty murder case remains one of the most chilling reminders of human cruelty. The unraveling of the Hello Kitty murder case began with a chilling confession from 14-year-old Ah Phong. In May 1999, Ah Phong, tormented by guilt, walked into a local Hong Kong police station. Her demeanor was that of someone carrying a dark secret. Initially skeptical, the officers dismissed her story as imaginative ramblings. But as she recounted her tale, the gravity of her words began to sink in. Ah Phong confessed to having a hand in the murder, making the police take her claims seriously. She led the officers to a flat in Kowloon, where she claimed the body was hidden. Her courage to come forward was the key that unlocked the door to one of Hong Kong's most gruesome murder cases. In the highly publicized trial that ensued, Ah Phong took the stand as the key witness against Chan Man Lok and his henchmen, Leung Shing Cho and Leung Wai Lun. Her testimony was crucial, not only because she was an eyewitness, but because she had actively participated in the torture of Phan Man Yi. Her account provided the jury with a detailed and horrifying look into the events that transpired within the Tsim Sha Tsui apartment. When Ah Phong began to recount the month-long period of torture, the courtroom fell silent. Her voice, though young and fragile, carried the weight of the gruesome reality that Phan Man Yi had endured. She described in vivid detail the various methods of torture, from the beatings and burns to the forced ingestion of feces. Her narrative painted a picture of relentless cruelty, a daily ordeal that left Phan Man Yi in a state of constant agony and fear. Ah Phong also spoke of her own involvement, providing a chilling insight into her psychological state during the torture. She admitted to hitting Phan in the head at Chan Man Lok's behest, a confession that underscored the extent of control and manipulation exercised by the triad leader. Her statement, "I had a feeling it was for fun," revealed the disturbing normalization of violence in her mind, influenced by her coercive environment. Her testimony was both compelling and tragic. It highlighted the duality of her role as both victim and perpetrator, a young girl caught in the web of Chan Man Lok's sadistic control. The defense attempted to discredit her by emphasizing her participation, but the prosecution argued that her involvement was a result of fear and coercion. The prosecution presented a harrowing array of evidence to support Ah Phong's testimony. The physical evidence recovered from the Kowloon flat painted a gruesome picture of Phan Man Yi's final days. The Hello Kitty doll with Phan's skull inside symbolized the extreme cruelty of the crime. Photographs depicted bloodstains, makeshift torture devices, and the squalor of the apartment. These images brought to life the horrifying conditions in which Fan was held and tortured. The cheerful Hello Kitty decor contrasted with the brutal violence, leaving a lasting impact on the jury. The forensic evidence corroborated Ah Fong's testimony. Medical examiners described severe burns, bruises, and signs of prolonged torture. Experts agreed the injuries were consistent with the described methods of torture. This reinforced the prosecution's argument that the accused caused Fan's death. Personal items and body parts found in the flat served as gruesome reminders of the killer's sadistic tendencies. The prosecution displayed plastic bags containing her teeth and internal organs. These remnants provided irrefutable evidence of the trio's involvement. The overwhelming evidence left little doubt about the guilt of Chan Man Lok and his associates. Ah Fong's testimony and the physical evidence painted a vivid picture of the atrocities committed. The jury faced the grim reality of the Hello Kitty murder, a case that pushed the boundaries of human cruelty. The jury's verdict. After weeks of harrowing testimony and substantial evidence, the jury retired to deliberate the fate of Chan Man Lok, Leung Shing Cho, and Leung Wai Lun. The trial captivated Hong Kong, drawing intense media scrutiny. The jury's task was to determine guilt or manslaughter. The deliberations were lengthy, reflecting the case's gravity. They sifted through horrifying details and legal definitions. They convicted the trio of manslaughter, concluding there was insufficient evidence of intent to kill. The judge sentenced them to life imprisonment with parole after 20 years, sparking public outrage. The case highlighted the challenges of the legal system in dealing with extreme violence and cruelty. The aftermath of the Hello Kitty murder trial left Hong Kong reeling. The public's reaction was a mixture of outrage and disbelief. Many felt the manslaughter conviction did not reflect the crime's severity. A life sentence with parole in 20 years seemed insufficient. The media shaped public opinion, covering every aspect of the case. Fan Manyi's skull in a Hello Kitty doll symbolized the case's brutality. Many felt justice had not been fully served. The case led to calls for legal reforms to ensure appropriate justice. For Fan Manyi's friends and relatives, the conviction provided some accountability. The public reaction underscored the profound impact such crimes have on society. The Hello Kitty murder case left an indelible mark on Hong Kong society, influencing public perception and prompting discussions about crime, justice, and societal protection. The case became a chilling reminder of extreme violence lurking beneath urban life, serving as a catalyst for societal reflection. It shattered illusions about the city's safety, highlighting organized crime's presence and capacity for violence. The involvement of a minor, Ah Fong, underscored the vulnerability of young people in criminal networks, calling for better protection. Public outcry led to calls for legal reforms to address inadequacies in handling such cases. The case highlighted the complexities of proving intent in murder, prompting calls for clearer guidelines. The macabre details had a profound psychological impact, with the Hello Kitty doll symbolizing the crime's grotesque nature. This symbol influenced media, literature, and public discourse. The case remains etched in Hong Kong's collective memory, a reminder of human depravity and the need for vigilance and justice. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe.